Welcome to Chamber Chat. This is John Tayer, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber, and I welcome you, our business community and Boulder Chamber membership, to our bi-weekly conversations with leaders in our community who are helping to address critical community issues, including our effort to address the COVID-19 circumstances. So today I'm really excited to welcome my great friend, the Mayor of the City of Boulder, Sam Weaver. But before we get to Sam, I just have a few things I want to bring to your attention. First, are you somebody who knows a leader in our community who deserves to be recognized for our annual celebration of leadership? We'll make sure to get the nominations in before January 20, and that's for community leaders who are making an impact in our community, the best business leaders of our community, and folks who, through their work and business activities and community leadership, have demonstrated outstanding leadership throughout their career. There are a number of different important awards that we want to give out and people we want to recognize, so make sure to get those nominations in by January 20. We also want to make sure that you're aware of our upcoming economic forecast, which is on January 28. We will have, as usual, our outstanding nationally recognized economists, Brian Lewandowski and Dr. Richard Wobekind from the University of Colorado, and they'll be helping you to understand what's ahead for the year and how you can prepare your business to be successful as our economy rises back up through this COVID-19 recovery period. And then finally, we're ready to rock. And that's right, we're going to have our Battle of the Industry Bands. And we want to make sure that you know that the nominations for the Battle of the Industry Bands are coming up. So make sure to submit your band, because we want to highlight that not only are our businesses innovative and successful in their business enterprises, but they're also incredibly talented in the musical area. So get your nominations in for those Battle of the Industry Bands, and we're going to make sure that we pick the top 5 bands to compete in that Battle of the Industry Bands competition with our celebrity judges. Okay, enough about those announcements. Now it's time for a conversation with Mayor Sam Weaver. So Sam, welcome to Chamber Chat.
John, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, Sam, so you have now been serving on City Council since 2014, or I guess you were elected in 2013, and now you're going to be entering your second year as the mayor of our community. And as you reflect back on last year, just wondering if you can tell us about some of the things that you're most excited about or proud of as accomplishments during what has been a very difficult, challenging period for our community.
Yeah, well, I think probably front and center is the local response to the COVID pandemic. I mean, it pretty much overshadows everything else. Typically, as you know, on council, a lot of the work that we do focuses, of course, on public safety. So we've got some things to talk about there, and it also focuses a lot on land use and development. But to me, all of those issues have been overshadowed by the public health and safety challenges that we faced with the COVID pandemic and the coordination we've had to do between the city and the Boulder County Public Health, and the city and Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment. So I'll say that kind of is over everything. It is the single thing that every council member thinks about and all of our staff think about. And you've seen, of course, our staff has had to respond with furloughs. We have had deep budget impacts and have had to adjust quickly to changing circumstances on the ground. Within the COVID response, I'd say one of the things I'm most proud of is the COVID Recovery Center. You know, Kurt Haber of our Housing and Human Services Department saw a need immediately that people who are in congregate care, like a homeless shelter, would need a place to go if they were diagnosed with COVID or had been exposed to it. So we took one of our rec centers, South Boulder Rec Center, and coordinated with the county and opened a recovery center for people who had been exposed to or diagnosed with COVID could go and not be close to other people, could have a space where they were sheltered and would have food provided. And so that COVID Recovery Center is still operational and saw a peak in the early part of April and May when we had, the initial outbreaks. And then it's calmed down quite a bit since then. But that was an initial response that I thought was super creative on the part of our staff, and we coordinated it with the other governments. Another thing that I'm fairly proud of is the negotiations we did with Xcel Energy on forming a partnership and taking it to the voters to decide what they wanted to do going forward. So you, John, know a lot of the details around that, but I think it was a chance for the voters to weigh in at a time when we either had an opportunity to continue with the municipalization effort or to have a partnership that had some substance to it that people could latch onto and vote for. And so we know what we're doing. We're engaging in that partnership and moving forward in the year ahead to really launch it. And I'd say the first thing we're going to be doing as a result of that work will be identifying the locations to underground for additional resilience, additional reliability in electric services. So that's one exciting thing that I think could bear fruit over the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and absolutely appreciate your leadership in helping to drive those initial negotiations with Xcel and then leading it to this ballot initiative, which the Chamber was proud to stand with you in support of. And we're glad to have achieved a successful outcome there, and now onto a positive effort to address our future green energy future for our community. So thank you for that. Sam, I'm wondering, so now you're preparing for 2021, and I know you're going to have your city council retreat coming up. Can you tell us what are the goals that you have yourself, or maybe some of your other fellow council members have for 2021?
Sure. I think one of the key things is to adopt the racial equity master plan. So front and center, and COVID and the murder of George Floyd and the protests that have come out of that have really exposed some of the areas that we need to continue to work on as a community. And so the racial equity master plan adoption is one of the key goals going forward in the year, and integrating that into all of the city work, integrating the racial equity so it's at the heart of all of our conversations, whether it's housing or clean energy or human services, that we have equity right there at the core. When it comes to COVID, vaccine distribution, how do we have equity as part of that? So the most vulnerable and impacted communities are the ones that we get the vaccine to first to protect them from health impacts. So another is CU South. So we have the South Boulder Creek Flood Mitigation Project, which has been studied and planned for 20 years. And we are at the point where the elements of the building of the flood control dam are well understood. We have a pathway to success there. And a key condition for being able to do that is working out some kind of annexation agreement between the university and the city. And so another big item that's on the council work plan this year is to get the CU South project moved along towards a resolution and get our flood control in place. And then I think the one other thing that I want to mention is some land use planning work that's been worked on for a while. The use table review, that sounds completely boring, and it is, but super important about what can go where in Boulder, what can be housing, what can be office, what can be mixed use shopping. So there's a lot there. And so there's that, and then community benefit, the definition of community benefit, so that when we allow buildings to be bigger or taller than they would be by right, what does the community get back for that additional development potential? So those are some of the things that are on the plan at the moment going forward.
And every single one of those are important projects that I know the Boulder Chamber will be working with you and your council colleagues on. In particular, I can say that the diversity, equity, and inclusivity issues very important. And as you said, they should be infused in all aspects of our community activities. So really appreciate that effort. So Sam, you're sitting in the mayor's seat. Don't know if you're going to run for re-election, but just got a sense of, you've been in a planning board member, you've now in city council. what is your vision for work going forward in our community? What would you like to see our community evolve to in the near horizon?
I mean, I think we are in a very desirable place right now, meaning that we have a diversity of industries that function in the community. We've got a bunch of great institutions in addition to the private industry. We've got our great hospital, we've got the university, we've got the federal labs. So we really have the underpinnings to be kind of anything that we want to be. And so I think at the first that I think we want to continue to evolve towards is to be welcoming. So we want to be a diverse and welcoming community. And that gets us right to housing costs, right? And there's no way to avoid that. Our high housing costs in Boulder are a barrier to economic diversity, and they're a barrier to racial diversity. And so I think over the next decade, Boulder needs to continue to push really hard on how we control our housing prices. The market sets the prices, but the pool of permanently affordable housing that we continue to create in Boulder will become increasingly important as we go forward, not only for the people who live there having money left to pay for food and all the other things they need besides housing, but also to create the diversity that we want and to be welcoming as we say we want to be. So I think that, as I look forward, is probably the single biggest thing. I would say another thing is how we develop, right? And so how we develop will have some impact on housing prices. It will have some impact on the diversity of industries that we have here. But as opposed to and I've been here about 30 years in the area, and the dot-com crash in 2000 and 2001 exposed a weakness in the Boulder economy. We were pretty tech heavy in areas around software and telecom. And so we paid a price as a community for that. Our city budget got hit pretty hard, and we had to do some serious thinking about how to get through that. Now I feel like we have a much more diversified local economy. And so a hit to one area doesn't hurt everything else as much. COVID, obviously, is a counterexample to that. That's hit everything. But when we have downturns in particular sectors, our diversity really supports us. So I think we want to preserve the diversity and work on housing and inclusivity.
Yeah, those are really important issues. I mean, you talk about the holistic character of a community. It's got to have balance in terms of workforce, housing, and attainment. For us, that's how we characterize the affordable housing issue, but also making sure, as you described, that we continue to have that diversified industry sector, industry sectors, so that our economy is more resilient going forward. Well, those are all, again, issues that we're going to look forward to working with you on, Sam. And, I will just say this, I've just always, folks don't know this, but we get together on a regular basis, communicate about issues, don't always agree, but you know what? I always respect your position and always enjoy partnering with you on addressing needs in our community. So Sam, thank you so much for being with us on Chamber Chat, and look forward to a fun year together.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate your contributions to the community and look forward to working together as well.
Awesome. And so just a couple of other last reminders to our Chamber Chat viewers. First of all, remember, if you're in a band, make sure to get in the Battle of the Industry Bands. So make sure to register your band for that. Also, we're taking those nominations for the Celebration of Leadership honorees. Make sure to get those nominations in by January 20. And then finally, but not least, we have our economic forecast on January 28. You will not want to miss it. We promise that this will be the roadmap for you as you prepare yourself and your business for the year ahead. So without further ado, I'm going to close out this chapter of Chamber Chat with the formal reminder that we all can play a role in keeping our economy strong by making sure we follow those public health guidelines and wear those masks. And we'll see you next time on Chamber Chat.